Sometimes we mistake scars for open wounds. Scars are the memory of what once was, really just a reminder of what we have overcome. I don't know this Shandice that I'm becoming, and because I don't know her, I have to lean more into my relationship with God. Sometimes we want to stay a baby in our faith. We want to crawl when we're being called to walk. There's a time for crawling, but then there's a time for getting up, finding your balance, and walking. Hey guys, I hope that you're doing wonderful today. And if you're not, that's okay too. If you have bad days, If you're new to my channel, I'm Shandice and I make content about purposeful living, creativity, wellness, and authentic faith, really creating a life that radiates your God-given purpose and actually developing an authentic personal relationship with God. So today I want to share 3 things that I've learned this past month, and I think I'm going to do this monthly because I'm always learning something and I don't want to just learn it. I want to make sure that these are lessons that I'm implementing and that are actually going to be bearing fruit in my life, and also to encourage you as you continue to learn, just making sure that we're not allowing these lessons to go over our heads, because God is trying to speak to us in so many unique ways and sometimes we miss it because we're not paying attention. So this is an opportunity for us to just have a moment to breathe, reflect, and just share what we're learning in the comments and so forth. So I just actually got back from a coffee meeting that I had with a client. This was with one of my longest clients that I've had since 2020. For those of you who don't know, I'm a marketing consultant by day and I meet with different organizations, purpose-driven organizations, to create their marketing strategies, whether it be for like fundraising campaigns or launching new products or services. So at the end of our session today, she wanted to pray with me because I am hosting my Dear Purposeful Woman When Pain Meets Courage workshop next week, and we were briefly talking about it. And well, for one, what a blessing it is to have clients that you can pray with. A lot of my clients are older than me, so I'm forever learning from them. And I feel like it was just a moment of gratitude because 5 years ago, it was my dream to freelance and to work for myself and to be able to do the work that I do and to be around people where I don't have to be anything other than myself. It's just a daily win that I'm just forever grateful for. So we prayed at the end, and as I was leaving, I was just thinking to myself, one of the areas that I have struggled with for a long time is really clinging on to my shyness or my reservedness, or just being that person who is kind of like, like I grew up being like, this is the thing. I wasn't necessarily a shy child. I was talkative. I was very like bubbly in many ways, but I've always carried this shyness about myself. And what I feel has been happening a lot lately, thinking about life experiences and things that have maybe pushed me into hiding, where I have not felt good enough, or I've been afraid of disappointment, or not wanting to put myself out there in different ways. One thing that I have realized is many of the thoughts and feelings that I carry about myself, of me being afraid or me being nervous or me having to like overcome nervousness or being afraid to talk, these are the results of scars that I carry. They are not the result of open wounds. Sometimes we mistake scars for open wounds. Scars are the memory of what once was. They are not the truth of what currently is. So when you think about things that you may have been through in your past that have led you to maybe being afraid of disappointment, or you may be having these feelings towards yourself, and you see that scar and you have that memory, but you've also done the work to heal. You've also done what was necessary on your part to overcome it. Sometimes that scar, because the memory is so painful, sometimes we revisit the scar in a way that makes us believe that it's an open wound, when it's really just a reminder of what we have overcome. And what I've had to learn is that just because I was afraid, it doesn't mean I am afraid. Just because I was shy, it doesn't mean I am shy. I am learning to reframe the narrative that I've carried for so long about myself. I'm not who I once was. I'm growing, I'm developing. I don't need to keep on looking back to former versions of myself for comfort. God is doing a new thing. So I've definitely been challenged to break out of that. And that is scary now. Like having to really come to terms with the fact that sometimes I want to run back to a former version of myself because I know her so well. I don't know this Shandice that I'm becoming. There's this uncertainty. There's this feeling of like not being able to control things, right? And which is a good thing because it challenges me to lean more into my relationship with God. So that's really been the first thing, is really understanding the importance of identifying the difference between your scars and your open wounds. And sometimes we are so focused on our scars, our open wounds are becoming infected because we're not paying attention to the parts of us that actually do need attention. So I think that it's really important to take time out to audit yourself, to really look at how far you've come and to celebrate how far you've come and to really distinguish the difference between your scars and your wounds. So that's something that has definitely been happening a lot the past month or so. And then if you watched my last video, Breaking Apart, I shared how like there's been a lot of stuff going on at our house. We're finally back home, which is a blessing. The past month has it's been a lot. It's been so stressful, but it's also like shown me things about myself that I didn't even know were possible. I am such a like want everything in place. I don't want to have to deal with stress. I don't like chaos. Oh my gosh, I do not like chaos at all. Drama, none of it. I just don't want it. With all the work that's been happening in our house the last month, which is really just due to things that weren't done properly before we moved in. So they had to be done. Like our stairs had to be redone. And that's the whole process. They had to literally take up every tread. We couldn't go up and down the stairs. We had to stay at a hotel. It was a whole saga. And during the process of like us thinking it was done, but it wasn't done, and then us having to go back to a hotel, and just a lot of things were happening.
840.
Let's go. And I remember having several meltdowns, but the takeaway of that time was, even though all of that happened, I was able to launch my Dear Purposeful Woman When Pain Meets Courage workshop, which is going to be next week. I was able to keep on top of my client projects. I was able to still live and do what I needed to do, and also find peace in the midst of chaos, which I did not think was a possible thing. And in those moments, I felt God was speaking to me and saying, even in chaos, I am with you. Like, do you really understand when I say that I will not leave you nor forsake you? I am with you in it all. So it really made me realize that life is gonna happen. In many ways, I felt like it was a soft launch to just realizing that there are gonna be things in my life that are going to attempt to throw me off course. And in those seasons, in those moments, I have to make a decision. Am I gonna stay on track? Am I gonna keep on going? Am I gonna keep my eyes on God? Or am I gonna allow this one situation to derail me and throw me off course? Because this is the thing, right? The enemy is always watching. And when he knows that he can derail you by the littlest thing, he's gonna know exactly who to use to get you off course every single time. So what this taught me is there are gonna be seasons in my life, there are going to be things that happen that are not going to be ideal. They are not going to represent the vision that I had in my mind. But does that mean that I am going to now walk away from what I know I'm called to do? Am I going to allow this situation to make me lose my mind, make me lose my character? I have the opportunity to keep on going or to give up. And more times than not in the past, I've looked at external circumstances and I've thought, you know what, maybe that's a sign that I need to stop. Maybe it's a sign that I just need to give up. And There will be times that that is the case. Some things might happen in your life where maybe you're at a crossroad and you might have to go left instead of right. You know that there are specific things that you are supposed to be focusing on in that season. And just because your external circumstances have changed, it doesn't mean that you now need to put a stop on everything. Yes, things may look different. So for example, with my workshop, I thought I was going to launch it like a month ago, but instead I launched it 2 weeks ago. So knowing that things may shift, things may temporarily pause, but if you know that you're called to do something, you've got to keep going. Pray for discernment. That's when you pray for true, deep guidance and understanding for how to navigate your daily life when things aren't exactly how you want them to be. So now at the end of this, now that we're back home and there are still a few more things that need to get done, but my perspective has shifted on chaos. I'm never going to invite chaos into my life. I'm never going to be like, chaos, come in. Like, I want to chill with you. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But when seasons don't look how you want them to look, that are completely out of your control, it doesn't mean that your whole entire life has to stop. There can still be movement, there can still be growth, and there can still be inner transformation, right? So this has definitely been an eye-opener to me. So in the future, when life happens, as it will, I now know that that doesn't mean that my life stops, right? So that was definitely a lesson there, which leads me to my third thing, spiritual maturity. I have to grow up. Spiritually, I know that sometimes we want to stay a baby in our faith. Sometimes we want to crawl when we're being called to walk. There's a time for crawling, but then there's a time for getting up, finding your balance, and walking. And I think that I have kind of like wrestled between being a crawler and being a walker, because when you're a crawler, you can use God's grace as a crutch. But one thing that I've learned is do not take God's grace for granted. There's gonna come a time in your faith that you are gonna have to stand up. And I feel like a lot of the things that have been happening in my life lately have been those little tugs of like, okay, this is an opportunity for you, Shandice, to really put your faith in motion, for you to really put these lessons in motion. Like, look at where God has taken you. Look at the things that you've been through. Like, look at the refining processes that have taken place. Are you carrying those lessons into the next season of your life? Or are you leaving them there and now going through the same cycle over and over again? There are cycles that need to break in our life. The only way those cycles are going to break is if we start paying attention to our actions. Because if you are doing the same thing over and over and over again and praying for God to deliver you from that situation, what exactly is God delivering you from? Is he delivering you from the situation? Or really should you be praying for God to deliver you from yourself? Sometimes we are so fixated on the way that things look on the outside that we're not paying attention to what is happening on the inside, and we're not paying attention to what God is trying to communicate to us in that season. I think about when God spoke to Moses through a burning bush. I can only imagine the visual. Think about a burning bush. Think about the sparks flying. Think about the heat radiating out, like how that must have felt. I'm sure that was probably an uncomfortable situation, right? Moses could have ran away and said, listen, I don't want to be around this burning bush. But that's the way that God was communicating to Moses in that time. So it makes me think about, what are some of these burning bush moments in my life? Like, I know what happened with my house. That really felt like a burning bush moment, because with everything that happened, I just didn't want to be a part of it. I literally just wanted to disconnect from the situation, but I couldn't because it was happening to my house. I couldn't run. And there are so many instances where God is trying to speak to us in our burning bush moments, where sparks are flying and things are happening. And because we are so uncomfortable with what is happening around us, we are missing the message of what that season is trying to communicate to us. So when it comes to spiritual maturity, what I am learning is that my faith isn't always going to feel good. It isn't always going to be comfortable and cute. Sometimes I'm going to be put through the fire, and it's my job to keep on going and not run away and not turn my back, because the same God who was with me at the beginning will be with me at the end. So that is something that I feel is like, man, it's definitely, it's really uncomfortable, but I know it's necessary. I know, especially now that I'm hosting my workshops again and knowing how spirit-led they are, there's this daily reminder of spiritual maturity, spiritual growth, of just knowing that it's really on me to do my part. During my meeting today, there was a moment that we were just talking about life and just things that are happening within our lives. And something that I said at the moment that I didn't even realize it, like I had to write it down because I really felt that was the Holy Spirit talking. And what I said was, in the moments that we feel like something is so much bigger than us, what we can't forget is it's never going to be bigger than God. In that moment, I had to ask myself, Shandice, do you truly understand what you just said? You said that sometimes when things feel bigger than you, if they're not bigger than your Father, why are you worrying? So I had a moment, and it just kind of put things into perspective for me even more, that there's just a lot of things that are no longer really an issue in my life, but a part of me wants to hold on to them because I know how to relate to them. I know how to come on camera and tell you what I'm afraid of and to tell you what I'm struggling with. But what about what I'm overcoming? What does that narrative sound like? What does that narrative look like? And I just feel like I'm ripping away the old and I'm coming into a new. So those are some of the lessons that I've been learning the past month and a bit. Well, really, like, I feel like it's been a build up. So maybe the last couple of months is kind of been leading to this moment in time that I'm just like, things are shifting, things are changing, and you have to step up to the plate. I'm actually about to head over to my co-working space because I need to start putting together my workbook for my workshop next week, and I'm really excited. I've done this before, and I know that God is going to move. I know that if we're all open to the ways that God is speaking to us, then really it's going to be good, you know? So no, I'm not afraid. I'm not. Like, I want to get used to the Shandice who is not afraid anymore. And it doesn't mean that there won't be those moments of nervousness or like those moments of doubt, but they're moments. They are fleeting moments that pass away. I want my daily posture to be one that is truly aligned with God's Spirit, that is truly aligned with being a courageous woman of God. Like, I want that to be my default, right? I want that to be my norm. I don't want fear to be the norm and then I have to climb my way up to courage. I want courage to be my norm so that whenever I fall beneath my norm, I know what to do to bring myself back up. So that's what's been happening over here. I would love to know, what is one thing that you have learned this past month? This is such a good opportunity for us to really just think about, like, what are the unique ways that God is speaking to us, and to really take those seeds and water them so that they can truly bear fruit in our lives. Because if not, we're going to keep on going around and around in circles. Like, this time next year, I should not be recording another try again video. I should be sharing what came from me trying again. What was produced from me actually doing what I said I was gonna do. So I'm excited to just continue growing, learning, and sharing. So I'm gonna continue preparing for my workshop. I'll definitely be sharing how that goes. I hope that you enjoyed this time with me, and I will see you in my next one. Take care.